Hello and good morning. I'm Sanchita Sangre, a student of Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, and today on behalf of the Ramkumar Rathi Patanjali Yoga Chair, Savitribai Phule Pune University and Ayush Center of Excellence, CCIH, School of Health Sciences, I extend you a warm welcome to the launch of Genome to Om. But before we dive into the festivities today, I'd like to mention that the event today has been thoughtfully curated by all the students of Professor Patwardhan, and we request you to be a little considerate of some minor adjustments and any unexpected elements and we request you to help us navigate through it. So I was told that the Bhandarkar Research Institute is 107 years old, and the Savitribai Phule Pune University started in a room in this Bhandarkar Institute. And this book was started in a department of School of Health Sciences in Savitribai Phule Pune University. This book takes us back to its root, just like this institute, the Bhandarkar Institute. And this book has been is in progress for the last 30 years. It's a synthesis of modern and ancient, basic sciences and medical sciences, fundamentals and applications, pedagogy and research, Eastern and Western, traditional and modern, and science and spirituality. It's a book that joins two ends. So, without further ado, we will now be presenting the magnificent journey of this book. It's the Genome to Om song that goes on to tell a dance of science and spirituality. This book has been promoted in Pune. The video for this book has been promoted in Pune by Dr. Vijay Bhatkar, Professor Mashelkar, Professor Vishwanath Karad, who is known as a champion for science, spirituality, and peace. The idea of the authors behind making this video was that science cannot be presented isolated as a complete source. So science and spirituality should be presented in an art form. This thoughtful interaction with Guru Swarupa Udki has led to the creation of a song video of the book, and this video summarizes the book in short. We will now be playing a short music video, and I'd like to tell that this video was composed by Mr. Kedar Pandit. The song has been written by Mr. Nachiket Zog, and it has been conceptualized and choreographed by Guru Swarupa Udki, and the vocals are given by Mr. Shankar Mahadevan.
ओम उदय है ज्ञान मार्ग का, ओम विलय है जड़ चेतन का, ओम निलय है परमात्मा का, स्वयं की धारा है। षड्रिपुओं का उगम स्थान, रिपुओं का उगम स्थान, अज्ञान घोर अंधियारा है। षड्रिपुओं का उगम स्थान, अज्ञान घोर अंधियारा है। जागृत कर दे, ओ सुहानी, जागृत कर दे, उजियारा मार्ग चेतना का ले जाए, कहते हैं अध्यात्म उसे। मार्ग अगर हो जड़ का तो फिर कहते हैं विज्ञान उसे। मार्ग चेतना का ले जाए, कहते हैं अध्यात्म उसे। मार्ग अगर हो जड़ का तो फिर कहते हैं विज्ञान उसे। पर दोनों का गुंथन है, पर दोनों का गुंथन है, वो जुड़े हैं नित एक दूजे से। एक दूजे का सहारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है। ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, उजियारा है, उजियारा है। जो है भीतर वो है बाहर, पिंड में ही ब्रह्मांड बसा है। अगर तुमने जाना है खुद को तो तुमने सब जान लिया है। जो है भीतर वो है बाहर, पिंड में ही ब्रह्मांड बसा है। अगर तुमने जाना है खुद को तो तुमने सब जान लिया है। चेतन ने जाना परमात्मा, चेतन ने जाना परमात्मा, जड़ ने परमाणु जाना है। जो परमोच्च सहारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, उजियारा है। कर विज्ञान से आगे जाए, उतरे हम प्रज्ञान में। कर विज्ञान से आगे जाए, उतरे हम प्रज्ञान में। शक्ति को सहयोगी कर ले, शक्ति को सहयोगी कर ले, हम मानव कल्याण में, हम मानव कल्याण में। केवल अद्भुत नहीं, केवल अद्भुत नहीं, बड़ा सामर्थ्य बसा इस कुंजी में। ये संकल्प हमारा है, ये संकल्प हमारा है, ये संकल्प हमारा है। षड्रिपुओं का उगम स्थान अज्ञान घोर अंधियारा है। षड्रिपुओं का उगम स्थान अज्ञान घोर अंधियारा है।
और सुहानी
जागृत कर दे, और सुहानी जागृत कर दे। ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है, ज्ञान मार्ग उजियारा है।
That was phenomenal indeed. I request all of you all to please give a round of applause for the performance held together. This video has been viral, and there were a lot of comments that were coming in on this video, and I'd like to share one of the messages that we received. This message is from the retired Lieutenant General Dr. Madhuri Kanetkar. She's the Vice Chancellor of MUHS. And she says, "Congratulations and an amazing combination of science presented by art. It's truly mesmerizing and apt presentation for the launch. The lyrics are full of deep meaning, and the rendition very powerful. The grace of dancers is beyond words." It's a perfect launch, that's what she says. So moving on to the heart of the event that has been much awaited, I think it's now time to unveil the books, and I request upon stage the presence of the authors, Professor Bhushan Patwardhan and Indu Ramchandani ma'am. I'd also like to request Honorable the Chancellor for D.Y. Patil University, Honorable Professor P.D. Patil. Please welcome in a round of applause. The Vice Chancellor for Savitribai Phule Pune University, a researcher and an academician, Honorable Professor Suresh Gosavi, sir. Sir, any more varieties that we have? Yes. Please invite them in a round of applause. I now request the dignitaries to please unravel the books. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I request the dignitaries to please take a seat, and I request Gosavi sir to please stay with us for the felicitations. Yes. I request the first felicitation of Professor P.D. Patil sir. Yes. Sir. I request Patwardhan sir to please felicitate Gosavi sir. Thank you, sir. I now request the felicitation of our panelists at the hands of Mr. Rahul Rathi. Can we please have them on stage? Rahul, sir. I would like to invite Padma Vibhushan Dr. Vijay Kelkar, noted economist and finance secretary, Government of India, to please join us on stage. Please give them a round of applause. Let's be enthusiastic with our claps, I say. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Next up, we'd like to invite upon stage former DG CSIR and scientist and a distinguished professor from Savitribai Phule Pune University, Professor Shekhar Mande. Thank you, sir. Next on the stage, I would like to invite Mr. Pradeep Rawat, a former MP from Pune and also known for his work in science propagation. Next up on stage, we'd like to call Professor Mandakini Pansare, who's a professor of physiology and a yoga researcher. The extremely notable thing that I'd like to mention is she finished her PhD at the age of 85, and that's the inspiration we want to draw as young researchers. Please give them a round of applause. Next on our... Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Ms. Abhijita Iyengar. She's a yoga teacher and one of our panelists for the program today. Please give her a round of applause. And she's the granddaughter of Dr. Iyengar. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We would also now like to recognize the contributions of those who have been silent but key contributors in the making of this book. I'd like to call upon stage Professor Alex Hankey. He's a physicist and a professor of yoga. Welcome, sir. "22 years ago." Thank you, sir. Next up, we'd like to recognize the contribution of Guru Swarupa Udgi, whose beautiful performance you have seen up on the video today. Please give her a huge round of applause. Also like to call upon stage Mr. Tejas Nilvarna. He's the senior sales executive for the Blue Ink publisher. Sir, can you please have you up on stage? Please give him a huge round of applause. The designing of the book is yet another important message that helps the readers understand the gist of it. And we'd also like to recognize the contribution of the designer of the company Urmi Designs, who has contributed in the artwork of the book. I'd like to please call upon stage Ms. Shalaka Kalakar. Please give her a huge round of applause. Yes. The memento is designed with a design of a genome at the bottom and the design of an ohm at the top of it. So that's a lot of creativity. And lastly, we'd like to call upon stage Professor Sharad Deshpande for giving his thoughtful inputs in curating the book. Please, sir. Please give him a huge round of applause. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, I'd like to please request sir to be here with us because next up, we'd like sir to tell us more about the book and inform us about the panel discussion. Sir and ma'am, please, over to you.
Thank you, Sanchita, and all students for this function, which all of you have organized. Yesterday we finished launch in Delhi and followed by book discussion again at one university called Rishihood University. I really don't know what to say, but seeing all of you here, it's finding very difficult to express and remember and recall the journey of 21 years where this book was brewing. And I must tell you that although both of us have written this book, Induji and me, the ideas have come from all over. Each one of you must have contributed some way or other, some idea which must have gone in my mind, which has been put in this book. So we don't take credit for writing this book. We have put upon all the ideas which we received from kind of universal consciousness, including all. We have tried to put it together. In 2003, I was working, and I hope Kalpana is here somewhere. We were working to understand the genetic basis of Ayurvedic Prakriti, Vat, Pitta, Kapha. And at the same time, I was also reading Upanishads. And Ishavasya Upanishad, Purna mantra or Shanti mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevaya Shishyate. What does it mean? This is complete, that is complete. If you remove something from complete, what remains is complete. What removed also has capability to regain the completeness. So I said this is the definition of genome. And from there, this whole journey of initially Om to genome started. And I spent a lot of time with Alex. We spent almost a week at University of Cambridge discussing with Nobel laureate Professor Brian Josephson, whose current research interest is origin of thoughts and mind-matter unification. So you can imagine scientists at the highest level try to go and try to understand science of science. When we say evolving journey of science, or modern science to meta-science, we mean meta-science meaning science of science. So when science tries to understand nature, so scientists can tell you which are these plants which you go out and see, what are their families, how fruits are there, and all that, including its molecular biology and genetics. But meta-science is science as science. Knowing nature is meta-science. Actually, knowing nature by its virtues is modern science, and knowing nature of nature is modern science. We get inspired by three such aphorisms. One Purna Mantra I told you. Second aphorism we got inspired was Prajnanam Brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad says Prajnanam Brahma. And we said, what is this Prajnanam Brahma? Prajnan is something completely different, and we could not get parallel word in English, so we chose meta-science. So it's an adjustment word. It is not bringing the complete meaning of pragyan. So pragyan is something which everybody, not only we, everybody, every jivatma on this earth has that capability. And we said that third, I was working on Ayurveda, so Prakriti Purush Siddhanta in Ayurveda. Prakriti Purush, Pindi Brahmandi, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmandi, macrocosm and microcosm relationship. So we said that all this is hidden, some messages they are trying to give us. And we have to understand that and present it in a contemporary language. So we tried to bring in various thought processes from all over. We have not taken any stand. Earlier I used to be atheist. My father was extremely God-loving person. And tomorrow is Ganesh Chaturthi. Omkar Swarup, that's what. So Atharva Shirsha, we were raised by reciting Atharva Shirsha. And you would not see better expression of what does Om mean in Atharva Shirsha. So we were trying to connect all these dots, and it was all in mind brewing all that years, right from my childhood to this. Then I met my mentor, Dr. Gururaj Mutalik, who was first professor of medicine at BJ Medical College, and he retired as director at WHO New York office of the UN. And he knew that I was atheist, and we used to have long conversation. And After few years, I said that I am graduated now to being agnostic. So today I stand before you as an agnostic. But Dr. Mutalik still feels that I have a potential, to even graduate further, to go to the doctorate level beyond agnostics. I don't know when that will happen or whether that will happen or not. But this is how this book evolved. And when this book was evolving, I talked to Swarupa. I thought that science cannot be complete unless it walks with humanities and arts. So I wanted this book to be expressed in art form. And Swarupa, you did a marvelous job, I must tell you, that the kind of creation what we saw is mind-boggling, and I must tell you, Delhi audience was spellbound after this was released in Delhi. So fantastic creation, a very big hand to you and to your entire team, your entire team. So I would say at the end that this book is a small effort, to start thinking something beyond what we normally do in our science laboratories. In our science laboratories, we think that what we can measure is true. What we cannot measure is not true. And what we can measure is through our senses, Pancha Pancha Karmendriya, whatever we have, But is that enough? If we can't see with naked eyes, we invent microscope or telescopes, or go to MRI diagnostics and many other advancements of sciences. So we have reviewed these entire advancements of sciences here in this book, but there are perils also. So we have talked about perils, and we have raised several questions, which are primarily Upanishadic questions, Mahavakyas or Mahaprashnas, what we have raised. Who am I? Why I am here? What is the purpose of my life? Where I am going? What happens after death? And then we are also talking about the transition from meta-science, and we think in the book we have discussed that meta-science is required for our evolution to meta-society, what we call it as. And I think this, you would be able to see so many glimpses, full of all references, scientific literature, philosophical literature, historical information, all put together in this book. This book could not have become reality, unless there was a equally efficient co-author. And I met her while I was at UGC in Delhi. And since that time, the book started taking shape. Otherwise, as I told you, it was just brewing. But then maturing and actually putting it in bottle, that was Indu Ramchandani ji. Thank you. So I'll hand it over to her to.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you, Bhushan ji. My involvement with this book convinced me that nothing happens by chance. There's no coincidence. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of imagination, nor am I a scholar by any stretch of imagination. I have been a student, and I'm still a student since the last 40 years. But interest in Vedic philosophy was there for all this time. But professionally, I was an editor and publisher. So my being invited to UGC was to edit some works for them. I was supposed to meet the chairman that day. He happened to be at a meeting, so the lady who had called me said, "Will you meet our vice chairman, Dr. Patwardhan?" So I said, "Of course." I went and met him. We didn't talk much about editing or the books, but we talked about our common interest of the Upanishads. And my so-called interview went into a long discussion about our common interests. And then, yes, I did some work for UGC while Sir was there. Then he moved to Pune and we lost contact. February of 23, I was visiting family in Pune and I said, "Oh, Dr. Patwardhan is here. I must call him and see if I can meet him." He said, "Please come." So I met him at his office and suddenly he comes up with this, I have had this book in my mind for the last 20 years. He explained a brief and what do you think? So I said, "Yeah, it sounds very interesting." He's walking me down to the car and he looks at me and says, "Will you be my co-author?" It was like a bomb falling on my head. So of course I said I'd be delighted. It was an honor. And then this last 18 months, has been our evolving journey. We started with certain ideas, we put them together, we brainstormed them with advisors, we changed it, we shuffled things around, and we've been writing and writing and writing. And it's been really a learning. I don't think I've read more science in my life as I've read in the last 18 months, because to write something, I had to know about it, right? So I really have studied science seriously in the last year and a half at my age of 80 plus. And then we're talking about the concept, the root of this book. We are talking of science which needs empirical proof. As Bhushanji said, you've got MRIs and super MRIs and fMRIs and all that to prove what they are saying. But before the scientist comes to the proving stage, he's thinking it through, right? He believes in it, therefore he wants to go and prove it. If he didn't believe in it, he wouldn't work towards proving it. We believed that there is a synthesis between science and spirituality. They seem like completely opposite directions because the scientist is very skeptical about the spiritual concept of direct experience. They say this is mythical, this is all in the mind. What do you call direct experiences? Where is your proof? But the point is that an inner experience cannot be proved outwardly, just as an outward experience cannot really be understood internally unless you put in your direct experience. There is a synthesis. And that is what our conviction was, that where are we heading? As Bhushanji said, the perils of science overwhelm us. Today we talk of extinction. As a humanity, we are working, really rolling towards extinction. Do we stop there? Do we have a way of turning around? We believe we do. We just have to be aware of it. We have to stop and take a step back. So that's what we did. After we took science and its perils, we stepped back and said, what was the origin of this world? What's the origin of the universe? What is the cosmos? Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Because unless I, as an individual, know my purpose, I cannot be a contribution to society. If I'm going to be self-centered and only involved with my cocoon in which I have my world, then I'm unaware of what's happening in the world. And that's what's happening today. We've all almost become like the modern doctors who look at one unit of your body and specialize in it. We have started specializing in ourselves. And because of this extreme specialization, we've forgotten that we are a community, we are a unity. And this unity in diversity is what we are talking about. So it's an ongoing journey. We've proposed more questions than we've answered, because with every answer we found another question, which we've put across to our readers, that we are part of this journey, join us. And let's see where we head. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the next part of the event, we would now begin to the panel discussion. And I'd like to please call upon stage Padma Vibhushan and noted economist, the Finance Secretary, former Finance Secretary of Government of India, Dr. Vijay Kerkar, former DG CSR scientist and distinguished Professor Shikhar Mande. Please give them a round of applause. Former MP from Pune, but also known for his work for science propagation, Mr. Pradeep Rawat, Professor of Physiology and Yoga researcher, Professor Mandakini Pansare, and Ms. Abhijita Iyengar. Patwardhan sir and Indu ma'am, please.
Thank you. We have a distinguished panel today to discuss book. And as I told, on 4th, another panel discussion was there in Delhi when Niti Aayog former Vice Chairman Raju Kumar ji and several others, ICSSR former Secretary, and many other dignitaries also participated. But this is our hometown. This is where the book was conceived, and this is where we belong to. So this function in Pune is very special to us. As Sanchita mentioned, I also learned the spirituality and science words with Dr. Bhatkar, Dr. Mashalkar, and most importantly, Dr. Vishwanath Karad, who actually is a champion of science, spirituality, and peace. He's not well. He's having fever, so he's not able to join us. So he has sent his regrets. But from his university, his Pro-Vice Chancellor, and both of them are here. And we miss him today. But I must tell you that the Pune city, as a seat of Santa, Jnaneshwar, Santa Tukaram, this spirit is very, very strong in our city. And so we thought that this book discussion in Pune is extremely useful, important. When we were talking about panel, the first thing we came to standing that we must invite Dr. Mashalkar and Dr. Kelkar and Dr. Bhatkar. These three names come automatically. Dr. Mashalkar today is in the meeting to select the first prize after Queen Elizabeth. So that's jury, he's member of the jury, so he's not able to join us. Dr. Bhatkar and Dr. Karad, both of them are not well. So Dr. Vijay Kelkar, you have a larger responsibility in the panel. Dr. Vijay Kelkar, his daughter, Sujata Kelkar, Shetty, when this book was evolving, Dr. Sujata Kelkar is also a very good prolific writer, science writer. She herself is a doctorate from American University, and I consulted her. I must tell you that almost 70 different reviews this book has gone. 70 different people from different walks of life. We shared draft, and we try to incorporate their suggestions in the draft. And you will find that this book has definitely deficiencies, and as Induji mentioned, it's a continuing journey. But we tried to give you something, one small drop in this current situation to really give a message or try to tell the people that so far science has worked more for our own greed, for our own satisfaction, for our own comfort, and for our profits, but less relatively for people and for nature. So we are saying there is a time now to think of the trajectory where we are moving, and we are trying to give why we should do so, why we should transgress or transcend from Anthropocene to Omecene, what we talk about in the book. So I'll not talk. We have shared this with our esteemed panel, and we will hand it over to them. I will request first Dr. Vijay Kelkar to come forward and share his views on the book. Dr. Vijay Kelkar, as all of you know, not only Padma Vibhushan, but former finance secretary and and also founder of Pune International Center. That is most important for Pune. Thank you.
Namaskar. Induji, Dr. Patwardhan, and distinguished member of panels. I really don't know why I'm here, because I'm neither scientist or meta-scientist. Then now I understand why I'm here is because of my daughter Sujata. And I want to thank you for inviting me and to be part of this very important celebration. I received this book about 48 hours ago, and I read it. And it's not an easy book to read, especially for who's not very au fait with the science, and certainly much less about meta-science. But I try to give remarks on what I found the most useful part to me, and that I'll speak upon, is essentially how do I apply this for change, or changing, starting with oneself, or more importantly, the society where we live. Uh, he has, in this book, Indu, and have very interesting. I would urge you to read this book. This is extremely useful. And I'm, there are different DNAs here you can see. My DNA is that of a bureaucrat, which is really all known as neti, which is what I always say no. So I'm going to make some practical sort of lessons I learned from this very important book. He has given a concept of what he calls Society 5.0, as I understood. And that's where I was wondering what really I can fruitfully contribute of thinking about how to make transition of where we are and where our distinguished authors wants to go. And it occurs to me that this jump of incidentally in this transition I would change the title of this book from Genome to Om to Genome and Om, because I think directly traveling to Om may be difficult. We might sort of do parallel processing and go there. So to my mind, the way you make transition is to find an optimal strategy is you have to have identify what Professor Rane would call a dominant constraint on the system. What are dominant constraints? And so to solve that, and a successive solution of this dominant constraint is where we want to make change. And I want to make a very small point. I think as I see today, all this tremendously powerful analysis and vision, the problem far more serious and immediate, which is really upon us, which is climate change. And to go to this Society 5.0, I think next step would be to, I would argue, is really make this very important transition of new society or new economy, which is a green economy. And that's why my mind. And that's where there are 4 or 5 points which come from this book I want to mention. One is a point I made is minimalism. So this is an important part of going towards the first transition, which is becoming green economy. It also means the concern, I'm taking a very practical interpretation of what you call Ishavasya Upanishads. Another aphorism of that is all is one and one in all. That is one also part of Ishavasya. Is really taking into account how we take care of the environment by being mindful of what are the environmental costs we incur on the future by our actions today. So that's the second part, is essentially take everything into account of environmental costs, which means the degradation of environment. Second, the non-renewable resources which we deplete, and very important loss of biodiversity. Another very important cost we don't need to take into account. So this is really the first step, in my view, to achieve this grand vision of Indu and Bhushan of Society 5.0, is really start first taking immediate steps for solving a crisis upon us, existential crisis, which is a climate change, and perhaps which can potentially completely eliminate the human society. So these are the parts sort of I learned, but I'm still learning from this. Maybe I will come back to both of you to ask more questions. But I'm very grateful that you got me involved in this. As I said, I'm among the distinguished scholars. I'm the least equipped to talk on science part of it or even meta-science part of it. But I thought what I can tell you what I learned from this. And I think I really got a powerful message that we have to start towards movement towards what he calls Society 5.0, and beginning has to be tackling climate change, where all of us can make a contribution by accepting some of the proposals of this book. Start with minimalism as a starting point. So I will not take any more time, and I'll give back to you.
Thank you. After listening to the economist and reformer, I would say, thoughts, and he talked about minimalism, and the book talks in detail about how and why minimalism. The book also talks about the transition, from consumerism, ultra-consumerism to minimalism, and this is what he was mentioning. The book also talks about, in great detail, about the current problem of climate change and how rapidly we have entered into from Holocene to Anthropocene. Today, Nature published article 2 years back telling us that total weight of human-made mass on this earth has exceeded biomass. That means the weight of concrete, weight of plastics together is more than weight of plants and animals. So this is a big change which is happening, and therefore Nature announced that now, that article announced that now we have officially entered into Anthropocene. We are no more in Holocene. And in this book, we are saying that we need to transit, take a pause, and try to get towards Om-Scene. This is what this book is all about, in which science plays a major role. The advancements of science, the frontiers of science, because of what we are all today. I am able to speak, and you are able to hear clearly. These are all science. So science cannot be undermined, but science is not complete. Science is not enough. There is something more than that. Science of science. And we could not find better person to talk about in this book discussion, Dr. Shekhar Mande. Dr. Shekhar Mande, one of the outstanding decorated scientists of our country. He was Director General of CSIR. Prior to that, he was Director of Pune's National Center for Cell Science, NCCS, DBT's Premium Institute. And now he is President of Vigyan Bharati. Dr. Shekhar Mande, please.
Thank you, Bhushan. So at the outset, I would like to thank Bhushan and Indu for allowing me to share my thoughts on the book, which I also received only a few days ago, like Mr. Kekar did. So whatever I have read, little bit, I will just talk about that, and I look forward to reading the entire book in the coming time. Now, the book essentially highlights, in my opinion, a large body of knowledge which we believe exists but is unknown as of today. So we don't really understand what exists there in the universe. We know it exists, but we are not able to address it very effectively. That's one of the major points, in my opinion, that the book comes through. And it begins extremely well, highlighting what is known and how scientific progress has actually brought us here about our understanding of nature, but also then transitions into something which is unknown in that particular context. And whether knowingly or unknowingly, the designer has very aptly put a DNA on the cover of the book, and the people who have learnt biology would notice that the DNA is not in the canonical double helix form, what we are used to. Not all biologists would know that. Maybe people who, like me, who are biophysicists, is a small branch of biology, they would realize this DNA is actually unfolding, that you see there. So the unfolding of the DNA probably would symbolize unfolding of the knowledge universe into the one that is unknown. Now, as Induji very correctly said, that when she was discussing with Bhushan, every time some question was asked and answered, it made her realize that many more questions were arising. And that's exactly how science is practiced all over the world even today. Every time in our own laboratories, when we are doing research and we get excited by something that we new find, that excitement always leads to 100 other things that we do not know about that particular area. And that's why people like me are all the time excited, because there are so much unknown there. Every time we find something new, we publish a paper, we realize that there is so much more that can be done to address more and more deeper in that particular area. Now, this particular philosophy of science especially from the Western perspective, has been articulated very well in his very classical history of textbook, what is called as Structure of Scientific Revolutions by a person called Thomas Kuhn. There's a very classic text that most people actually would have read. Those who practice science would have read how history of science has developed. And there one of the points that actually Thomas Kuhn mentions is about the beginnings of science, how people actually started addressing questions about nature around us, and also how the revolutions take place, what he actually called as paradigms, how they evolve over a period of time. Now these paradigms actually stay in science, and until somebody else comes and challenges that paradigm and proposes something new beyond that paradigm, that's what Thomas Kuhn calls as scientific revolution. Now most of the, as I said, it's a Western perspective because mostly in the Western perspective, the science really begins with Galileo and Newton. Or if we were to consider Western philosophy a little bit further, let us say someone like Aristotle, where it actually begins. And most of the explanations sought are based on logic in that particular sense. Now this is where actually the difference between the Western and the Eastern philosophies come in. While we believe that science is not only something which we want to understand about nature, but science actually goes beyond that, where we consider a human being and our thoughts as a part of that nature and as something which is unknown. And is something much, much more profound that simply addressing each question very rationally. That's beyond really science. What Bhushan also calls as meta-science is something like that. And in fact, we were very privileged when I was a student in ISC. Professor Josephson used to visit ISC very often, and we actually have talked to Professor Josephson on the streets of ISC while walking around. And there was a small group of people who were addressing some of the issues of meta-science then. George Sudarshan was one of them. George Sudarshan and Josephson used to walk on the streets of ISC, and we had actually, as students, as 20 odd years old students, we have actually talked to them. Professor Mukunda was one of them. Professor K.P. Sinha, who had spent a lot of time in Pune and then in Bangalore, he was part of that particular group. And it was very interesting actually talking to them then, because in the age of 20s, we are very rebellious, and we used to think that these people are talking nonsense. But now as you grow up, we actually do realize that, that nonsense also start making sense, So I don't know whether that's only a part of aging or something else. But nonetheless, I've enjoyed reading some part of the book which I have read. Both of them, Induji and Bhushan, have actually highlighted the knowledge that has existed much before what the Western science proposes as the world of knowledge. For example, he has given the example of Dwarka. There's the CSIR's, one of the premier institutes called National Institute of Oceanography, when they did underwater archaeology in Dwarka and have shown evidence that the city must have existed for about 10,000 years. That's what he has shown. One of the photographs, what he also shows, is of the Angkor Wat temple. And on the Angkor Wat temple, one of the pillars, there is an image of a dinosaur. Now, dinosaurs, as we know, archaeology is discovered only recently, right? The concept of dinosaur was only about maybe 200 years old after the archaeological thing. But Angkor Wat temple was made in the 12th century. So how did people actually was it an imagination, was it a myth, or was it something else that we don't know yet, right? So the world of knowledge has existed long before what we call as the emergence of modern science. And that's where actually our philosophies actually get integrated very well. And there's large unknown that is there which is beyond science. And in that sense, this book is very readable, is very engaging, and I would recommend everyone to please do read the book to actually start asking questions about what is beyond science and what world of knowledge actually is there that we would like to understand. Quite rightly, Mr. Kerka also pointed out climate change is that particular aspect that we would like to understand and try to address very urgently. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Shekhar. This book also discusses various stages, We say that the first stage or the first big explosion was because of through chemical like explosives which were discovered, TNT and all, and that was awarded Nobel Prize. And then Nobel realized that he should do something about peace. The second big explosion came in Manhattan Project, and there Oppenheimer also started talking about his inspiration from Gita. The explosions which we are now talking about or now witnessing or going to witness are coming through new technologies like artificial intelligence and CRISPR. And this book takes a very good review of this. While Dr. Mande was talking about Brian Josephson, Alex will remember, and those who are interested, and we have covered this in the book, the mind-matter unification project which is happening in Cambridge. If we see what that project is about, we will know what consciousness our sciences are talking about. So the inspirations which Western scientists have taken from our own knowledge systems, I hope that our country takes leadership, and that is one of the objective of this book. That don't look at our systems or our knowledge only from point of view as history. Look at them as sources of innovation. Look at them as sources of ideas to take scientific leadership. And you will find in this book a lot of such pointers giving this. I must acknowledge that Dr. Mande's wife, Dr. Sharmila Mande, is also here. She is one of the outstanding bioinformatics scientists who worked in TCS for years, and now she is also working as Ayush professor at the Pune University. Several people, as I told you, especially Dr. Mutalik, who impacted my mind, and Dr. Vinod Shah, I can see. Dr. Vinod Shah also is Dr. Mutalik's student when he was dean, and he has seen this journey, how this evolution was happening at that time. I also learnt a lot from many people, and Dr. Samprasad Vinod is here, Whatever little bits and pieces I knew are through the discussions and discourses we had several years, 20 years plus 30 years almost, we know each other. Although, and another very good scientist, Dr. Ramesh Bhonde is also sitting here. Ramesh Bhonde is one of the outstanding cell biologists who was working at NCCS, now works with D.Y. Patil University's research center. Why I am mentioning these few names is not to tell you that they are in Pune, but to tell you again that what we have written in the book, not just two of us have contributed, but a lot of thoughts from all over have been accumulated in mind for years together, have been published or have been written in form of this book. So this book also carries a lot of biology, a lot of physiology, because mind, consciousness, what are these? What is mind? What is consciousness? These are very profound questions, and there are no answers, straight answers in science. But still, people are now interested. You will see that the top-end research in these areas of consciousness is happening mostly outside India. You go to Cambridge, you go to Harvard, you go to Yale, you will find that consciousness-related research, mind-body medicine is emerging. So all these are originally coming from us. They will call it as mindfulness, but yoga will be actually discussed there. So this is happening, and the book attempts, really. And this is a global book. We have not written this book. We are not saying that this book is Indian book. We are not saying this book is Hindu book. We are not saying that this book only belongs to us. And we are not saying that we are the only knowledge sources. In this book, you will find that we have considered all knowledge sources from all cultures, from all civilizations, whatever is possible. So this synthesis which has happened, but because we are from Bharat, because we are more exposed to our knowledge system, you will find more elaborate discussions about Vedic knowledge systems. This is of course inspired by four major sources. One is of course Upanishads, second is different Vedas, third is Gita, and fourth is yoga. And when we talk about yoga in Pune, we can't really forget contributions of Dr. Iyengar. Dr. Iyengar took yoga globally. and he's a legend. His granddaughter, Abhijata Iyengar, is with us today. I would request, please come and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be here to share the dais with not just the dignitaries on stage, but as I just heard, there are dignitaries on this side also. So I'm probably the least qualified to even be inside this auditorium. My only qualification is that I learned from my grandfather, B.K. Sanger, for over 14 years that I lived in Pune with him. This book is a wonderful synthesis of our ancient wisdom and modern science coming together. I remember as a college girl in Ferguson, when I just moved to Pune from Chennai, and I was learning from my grandfather, as I just said. So I was into zoology. I was very interested in genetics, and the way towards genetics was either zoology or botany. We didn't have a graduation course back then for the specialized courses. And I remember my grandfather telling me once that, good, learn all of this in your college. All this information that your professors will teach you, they'll say that is knowledge. He said, that's good, do that. But of what use is all this knowledge to you if you don't know yourself? And that question really struck a chord with me, because for me, modern science and meta science just blended at that moment right there. And it was a direct experience that I had of, what can we do with all that we can gather about the outside world? What can we do if we don't know who we are ourselves? Like to cite the common examples as from the book, as they mentioned about the perils, the nuclear energy. It can be used for a great benefit of mankind, but it can create mass destruction too. So for all of this, we need to come back and tap into our own mind to see who we really are. And that cannot happen with just the modern science, because that's about the external world. The advantage of yoga in understanding this, what we hope can be a beginning to the Om Scene period, is that yoga gives us an opportunity to objectify our mind. How do we understand something if we can't objectify it? So modern science is extremely advantageous because we are able to objectify things. You can't see an atom under the microscope, you look at it, so it becomes an objectified process. And yoga here has a great advantage because it makes us objectify our own minds. Through the practice of yoga, we can put our mind in a test tube to see and to understand it, to feel it. And like we saw in the dance presentation, in the art presentation, that our own consciousness taps us to the universal consciousness outside. And for that to happen, this synthesis of modernness with the ancient wisdom is going to be of great advantage. This book is a must-read for both groups. I mean, if we look at it, modern science and meta-scientists would seem to be at loggerheads. If you believe this, you can't believe in that. And you can't believe in that, you can't believe in this. Whereas the synthesis of these two can do great wonders on an individual scale. It can do great wonders on the social scale and on the whole global scale. And here again, the meta-science can take us much beyond, because Patanjali, who we consider as the propounder of yoga, talks of understanding the mind through hetu. Understand the intention behind what you want to do. Each act that we commit, we look at just the act. Whereas by putting the mind in a test tube, we begin to realize that an act is not composed just of the execution of it, but there is hetu, there is an intention. Why are we doing something? There is a phala, there is a consequence. Ashraya, the substrate, what instruments do you use? All these four together conglomerate to form what is an act. Like a surgeon uses a knife and a murderer uses a knife. They both use a knife, but what is the purpose for? So Patanjali beautifully unravels how yoga can help us on this individual journey and on this cosmic journey. And for that, for the authors to do this profound job of bringing them both together so that we can have a symbiotic understanding of science and life itself. So I congratulate the authors, and I am thankful to them for having thought about this synthesis so that the new generations to come will have a fresh perspective a new perspective, which is beyond, which is not just conditioned by what is offered to us through the decades, but be innovative. So that's a wonderful gift that you give for us. So I thank you and congratulate you, and it's a must read for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that profound thoughts. I can see the lineage, and I can remember, I can still remember Dr. B.K. Sayangar and his entire contribution, and his postures are still imprinted in our mind in Pune. Thank you for coming. She talks about, very well you said that you can put mind in test tube, very, very interesting analogy. We talk about knowledge, talk about jnana. Jnana is maybe information, but is it enough? So we have to go to the next step, which is Vijnan. Vijnan is Vishesha Jnana. You specialize in something, it's empirical and very, very, and therefore we could advance. So Jnana to Vishesha Jnana. But then there is something else, what I told you, Taittiriya Upanishad, Pragyan, and therefore Pragyan and Brahma, that's what the term came in. In our own system, we have an open mind. Means the transparency and open mind is one of the very good feature of our knowledge systems. On one side, we may revere Shankaracharya. On the other side, we equally revere Charvaka. So we are open from all systems, and we are really living in today's world, wherein on one side, while we are seeing progress of science and technology, on other side, we are also seeing what is the progress of humanity that is happening. So we have tried to capture these aspects in the book in a very different way. Means if you read this book, you will realize that this book is not a mere compilation. This book is not something which authors are trying to impose on you. This book is giving you opportunity to think and raise more questions and try to find answers with whatever information which we have given. And we have cited whatever information we have given, we have cited all the sources also. So we have left it to the readers to make up your mind and try to find, it's a joint journey. And when we discuss this with young minds, young students, because I told you that we got this book reviewed from several people. From that, there were many young people also. And many young people in initial stages, they gave very, very serious comments, and that made us to change our track of the entire book. So you will find that this book is telling you something without taking any stand and letting you to discover this evolving journey of modern science to meta science. Pune has been blessed with several things, and we know Pune has given leadership, and not today, since times Pune has given leadership, and thought leadership also Pune has given. In education, Pune has given leadership. One such leader, normally leader meaning we think political leader, but we have a leader with us who is not only political leader but also a thought leader. His love for books is very well known. It's those who have not seen, and I have not seen, and I have told him that I am going to come to you and spend one full day with him. He has established such a fantastic library. Everybody tells me that you must go and sit with. So he is Pradeep Rawat, our former member of parliament. But more than that, he is a social reformer. Means I have seen him when I was in Ferguson with him, Patit Pawan Sangatna. That's what we all remember. You and Nandu Phadke, both of you, Chitare sir will remember that, So you will find a multifaceted person here, who is a scholar, thinker, and he is also trustee of this great institution. I would request Pradeep ji to come and share his thoughts.
At first and foremost, let me say from where I come. I am an atheist. I call myself a Hindu atheist, in a sense that I belong to this civilization, as Richard Dawkins calls himself as an Anglican atheist, or Jerry Cohen, another great evolutionary biologist, calls himself Jewish atheist. I went through this book. There are a few important things I would like to say. First is, in the West, you see, science is attacked from both sides. One from the religious fundamentalist who believe the origin stories in their own holy books. It's the same thing in the Islamic world. If it's not there in Quran or Bible, that cannot be true. So that is one kind of attack. Another attack is a recent one which started, which is known as the French disease of thought, postmodernism, where everything is subjective. So they have taken away the objectiveness of science itself. It's a science denial, very serious. And it has originated in humanities and social sciences. Fortunately, in India, from ancient times, we don't find this kind of a clash of science with our overall worldview. So there is a harmony. And I think that comes out very nicely in this book. That is true. But there are some caveats. The first is, science is well-defined word, meta-science. Narrowly speaking, is a kind of a screening process of scientific results. That means they study replication process, they study the overall peer review process, or the statistical tools they use. Have they used it honestly, or there are some tricks inside? So that is called meta-science. What I think is they are calling it is metaphysics, something beyond science, and that conveys a sense of some supernatural origin or explanation to the physical phenomena. And here I differ. There is no supernatural explanation to the natural phenomena, including human beings. In the book they many times say, we are unique. We are not unique. There is a pseudo-scientific picture of evolution. Most of you have seen. Most of times they show chimpanzee or orangutan, and then he is becoming bipedal, and then the modern human being is again on the computer. So it's a pseudo-scientific, so-called scientific perception of human evolution. And then we have the Dashavatar, which he has, why he has included it, I don't know. But this kind of crude ideas, they do not share a place with science. We have to be extremely aware that what is science is not the ultimate product. It is a methodology. We live an enlightenment age. And there are two pillars to this enlightenment age. One is the scientific method, and other is secular humanism. We derive values from that. Science itself is amoral. It is not immoral or moral. It is our duty. There is no God. It's our responsibility, our duty to create our own value systems. And it is a great responsibility. Once God is removed, responsibility is ours. And we have to take that responsibility. They are talking about the right values. The book talks about all the right concerns, right values, but they should be framed perfectly. Because many times confusion arises. That, yes, I am here in Bhandarkar Institute, we study our ancient knowledge systems. Just like our philosophical traditions, from which you take Gita, Vedanta, and other things, but about the secular traditions also. I will urge everybody to go to YouTube and listen to Manjul Bhargav, who is a field medalist in mathematics, and see the contribution of our ancients. We will feel proud about that. It's not only the contribution of zero. Go through it. One of the great minds is talking about the genuine contributions. What the challenge is that we have to keep the whole narrative based on one principle. This book is based on two principles. There are fact-based ideas and there are faith-based ideas. The confluence of the two does not give us a clear idea how to go forward. That is one thing I will request. Another thing is the doomsday perception. Everybody talks about climate change. We are moving towards a disaster. There is an end. This is not a new perception. This is an old paranoia. In Marathi we call जग बुडीचा सिद्धांत. सगळं जग बुडणार आहे उद्या. So this kind of doomsday perception is not needed. Before we came here, I told Bhushan, I went through the authors who has gone through. For reference, I told him to read Steve Pinker. Then he will understand that humanity on the long time scale, if you take it on the x-axis and the y-axis, so materially we have progressed and morally also we have progressed. That is the truth. But somehow there is an idea that the present generation should always feel guilty, should be in a victim mode. I don't think that is necessity. It is not so pessimistic. The challenges are real, formidable, and they can be overcome with clarity on two things. And that are secular humanism and also, as I said, the scientific method. Last point I want to make, maybe I am exceeding my time, that though science is amoral, in light of science, Vijnanacha Prakashat, because that is the only way to test claims, any claims about the physical world, how to test them. Now we believe that there is a caste system. What is the basis of that? Vansha Shuddhi, purity of blood. And there is talk in all ancient books about Varna Sankar. Now what does our biology tell us? That the whole humanity is one species. We don't need to go and look at the DNA. We all donate blood to each other. It is so simple as that. The color of the skin, it's because of melanin. There is a difference. It has got nothing to do about a sense of beauty or aesthetics. For that, science can reveal you the truth. Today, in 21st century, go and read the matrimonial column of Times of India or Lok Satta. What do people ask? Kundali? Mangal? What that Mangal has to do with the Hindu girls? I don't understand. We know so much about astronomy now. Now this kind of foolishness we have to shed. They are very simple things, but they bring unhappiness to our lives. Climate change का देखेंगे क्या करना है? Think about our individual lives and the small things. Because of those traditional ideas, we are creating so much unhappiness in our life. But in the light of science, we can understand the foolishness, the emptiness of those ideas. Who would have said he may be a great prophet or somebody else? But if we can move away from the small things in our life and change our life for better, that will be a really great thing for humanity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep ji. Changing our life, what you talked about, is very important, and that starts from us. In this book, you will find that the questions which you have raised, actually, readers will be able to get glimpses of finding some kind of information which will help them to form their own opinions. As we told you, as authors, we have not formed any opinions. We are here to give you the bird's eye view as well as the Simhalokhan also. Both the aspects we have tried to do in this book. There is something in the book we have mentioned, and that may, in our system, we have called Anubhav and Anubhuti. So we have discussed that in this book. Science can give you Anubhav, experience. You can really measure, it is quantitative. Anubhuti is something which is entirely different, that is individual. So in science, when we say that, for example, double-blind placebo-controlled clinical trials are the highest or the gold standard as a evidence, Swayam Anubhuti we consider as the highest level of evidence. Because if I have experienced something, I don't need any kind of evidence from double-blind placebo-controlled trial to change me. So Anubhav and Anubhuti, we have spent some pages on these kinds of concepts. And not only Anubhav and Anubhuti, you will find that several such concepts which have taken either from Western thoughts or from Eastern thoughts, we have tried to really address. And in the whole process, each of the thought has been sharpened by several people, so that we ensure that in the book we are not giving any wrong information. And one of them, philosopher Sharad Deshpande, he is like one, he will not tolerate any kind of a nonsense. So he has corrected, means I must tell you that just one simple box which you will see in the book, which is about Om, which is about Nasadya Sukta, he spent so much of time on that, and we had so much of discussion and so much of just to finalize one small box. So this is what is the point. We have tried that whatever small drop we are trying to bring in the ocean of knowledge, we have only tried that this small drop is as pure as possible. That is what, as authors, we have tried to do. We are coming to the end of this panel discussion, and as a plan, I had kept Dr. Dr. Mandakini Pansari to end this, not for because of her age, because she is 85, but because my co-author is also nearing that, 81. But Dr. Mandakini Pansare, one of the most popular teacher in BJ Medical College, professor of physiology, later professor of physiology at Bharati Vidyapith Medical College. I cannot imagine at the age of 80, somebody has energy to register for PhD, learn something new, learn Sanskrit and learn yoga and do PhD in that. Ma'am, kudos to you. Thanks for coming here, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhushan. Actually, as Abhijita said, my place is there. But since he insisted, I am here on the dais. Now, basically, I have learned physiology. So, my knowledge of yoga was very limited. I no doubt started learning it in childhood, but the idea was only up to the asanas and pranayam. But then, once I attended, and then later on I started reading about it more and more, And then I attended a conference, international conference on yoga in Lonavala. There, a very nice gentleman, like a yogi in his attire, gave a good lecture on yoga, and he said that no one has studied the history of yoga. Why not to study the history of yoga? That will give you a lot of things, lot of knowledge, and it will you will be able to compare both the sciences, the modern science and meta science, as he has said. So I thought that why should not I try? And then I started studying about yoga in detail, and then I started reading all those various books or granthas in yoga. And then I realized that whatever I have read is just a scratch on ocean. It is such a big knowledge and good knowledge, not only about the yoga, but about the meta science, that one must try to learn about it. And therefore, I was very happy when I saw this book, as he also, both the authors have compared these two, and they are trying to bring the correlation of these two sciences together and how to improve our own lifestyle with that. So, so first of all, about the about what you can say about the genome. When I started studying about the genome, reading about the genomes over here, I remembered, as he mentioned, my teacher, my guru, Dr. Gururaj Mutalik. He was the professor of medicine, and I have learned a lot from him. Even after his retirement, I had some connection with him, and I tried to continue it, but I couldn't because he left India, went to foreign countries, and I couldn't contact him over there. Anyway, so the knowledge of genome that he has given is really a great. I remembered the lecture Dr. Mutalik gave in BJ Medical College in the last research society meeting, and whatever I missed over there, few points I missed over there, I could get from his book. And I am really very happy to know about the detailed knowledge about the genome and what is it and how does it work. Everything is written very nicely in this first part of the book. Then when I started, and being a professor of physiology, before studying all these authors' books, I was not knowing much about the concentration or the various other aspects he has given in the book. So I came to know a lot about all those things also. And therefore, I am very thankful to him for giving me this book. About Om, he has read a lot, and he has given, both of them rather, have given a good knowledge about the Om. And you must be knowing, all of you must be knowing, that Om came from nowhere. It was, the sound was appreciated by the old Rishi Munis. As he just now said about the Anubhuti, the Anubhutis of the Rishi Munis gave a lot of knowledge to us. It was not only Anubhav, it was Anubhuti. And Anubhuti gave a lot of knowledge, so they got the Anubhuti of this Om. And then from that, they started explaining it, they studied in their own mind about it, and a lot of literature is given on Om. Just to tell a few, in Gopatha Brahmana, Vedas, they were divided into four, as you know. I may not go into details. And everyone has got four parts, that is Samhita, Brahmana, and so on. Then Upanishad is the last, Aranyaka and Upanishad. So Gopatha Brahmana, one of the part of Rigved or Ved, has given 3 notes of Om and called them as earth, the first note, that is it gives a knowledge about the earth, its flora, medicinal plantations, Rigveda, Bhuloka, Gayatri Mantra, etc. The second note, that is U, that gives the knowledge about the air, space, Yajurveda, Sattva, Raja, and Tama, and Bhuvaloka, and that which is created by U. The third one is Ma. It gives a knowledge about sun, Samaveda, blissful atom, and it created. It gives also a knowledge of Atman, what is blissfulness. So this is all indicated in this book, and this is how you find the importance of Om is, and Om has given every knowledge and every blissfulness to us, and how to this importance has been given here. About the pranayama, no details are given, but still I like to say that this pranayama has got 5 parts. Prana has got 5 parts, and those 5 parts are prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. And in Rigveda, various layers of the altar for yajna, they are created. There are 6 layers. So all these 6 layers, the first layer prana denotes inhalation, the second note apana, exhalation, the third note vyana, which gives diffuse breath, the fourth lane udana gives the upward breath, and the fifth lane samana gives a mixed breath. So this has given the knowledge about the prana and how different parts of the body, they are helped due to these 5 upapranas, as these 5 parts of pranas have told. The 6th layer you might ask about, and this 6th layer is Vak or Vani. So this is how pranayam has also been very well noted in Gopatha Brahmana. One more thing I like to tell you is about the Prashnopanishad. In Prashnopanishad, the 5 well-read rishis, they came to Rishi Pippalada and they wanted to know all about the mind, and they had various questions to ask him. So in Taittiriya, and then Pippala has said that prana is a symbol of Brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad also says Om iti Brahmam, as I think you have mentioned it. Then Shvetasvatar says that it is important as far as the meditation is concerned. So the importance of Om, as he has explained, has got various aspects, and they have been given in various Upanishads, our own knowledges. Secondly, I will like to say about few things which science and meta-science can be compared together. Let us take example of chakras. Chakras, we know that there are chakras in our body, sapta chakras and all that. So these chakras from Muladhar, Swadhisthana, Manipur, then Anahata, then Vishuddhi, Ajna, and Sahasrar Chakra. These these have been correlated with the plexuses in our body, physiology. The nervous system is formed of central nervous system, and there is another part of it, and this another part is called as autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system again is having two parts. One is sympathetic nervous system, other is parasympathetic. We are not going to go into details of it, but sympathetic system is overall stimulator of the body. And for that, there are different plexuses that are formed in the sympathetic channel. So these are like, I will give you a few examples: cardiac plexus, or cervical plexus, or thoracic plexus, or so these are the various plexuses, and they exactly correlate with these chakras. Whatever each chakra is working, the same is the work of the plexus. So it means that the science as well as meta-science, they are not altogether different. They are coordinated or correlated, and this our rishis and munis, by their own anubhuti, they not by experiments have proved it or have found it out, and that is how I like that part. So overall, if I want to tell about these books, this book is very useful for those who are learning science. For them, meta-science is also essential, and this meta-science and science, if conglomerated together, if brought together, then that will improve the lifestyle of a person, that will improve the functioning of the nation, that will improve the functioning of the world. And that is why it is a global book, as he has said, and really it is very useful for each and everybody. With this, I think I'll stop my.
Thank you, Professor Pansare, for elaborating on pranayama and other things, because in the book we have not mentioned details about yoga. We have referred about Ayurveda and yoga, but because this covers a huge canvas, we could not elaborate each and every aspect of it, but we do have given references and further readings necessary. At the end, I'm going to request my co-author just to sum up and give final comments in short. Thank you. Induji, please.
Thank you once again. And I really am searching for words to thank our panelists for all the inputs they've given. They've taken, even though they had the book in hand only a couple of days ago, they have looked into it and come out with very interesting insights and perceptions, and from a different, each one has a different perspective, which is a learning for us, because as we said, this is a journey. The bringing out the book was a big journey, and it's an ongoing journey. There are no conclusions. We have, as I said earlier, we have raised more questions as we've tried to answer some questions. And I think in life, it is a journey. And it's a process of learning from beginning to end. So we are, in conclusion, I would like to say that we have not concluded anything with this book. We have only suggested. We have referred to a wide canvas, as Bhushanji said. We have not detailed much, but we have raised those questions which occurred to us and which we felt were important in today's day and age. Whether there's an optimism or a pessimism about where we stand today, that's a personal perspective. But we are only posing what we understand and what we would like to share with everyone. And with that, I would like to thank all of you and conclude this session It's been wonderful having you all here, and it's been a pleasure for me especially.
Thank you, Induji. This book also raises one more point, We say that if yesterday's science fiction can become today's reality, for example, those who will see Star Trek, Star Wars, at that time nobody thought of going into space. But today we are doing it. So imagination is extremely important. So that's what we have talked about this. If science fiction can become real, can't we look at our own mythology, or not our own mythology, Greek mythology, as sources of ideas? We are not saying they're true, but sources, they have imagined something at that time. Let's have a look at it. So we are essentially saying we should keep an open mind. As scientists, it is our duty to keep open mind. As scientists, it is our duty to do something better for the people. And the last end of the chapter book, you will see that we are talking about universal well-being. Ultimately, all this for what purpose? Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Sarve santu niramaya. That's what this book gives you the message. And vasudhaiva kutumbakam, another message. So all this you will find that it's a very fine blend of modern and ancient, because I believe, and in the book we have said, that modernity is not coming from somewhere else, It's an evolving tradition. Evolving tradition is modernity, and therefore we have to keep in mind this connection all through. And you will find in this book, this kind of a synthesis attempt has been made. Thank you, Induji, for the very short concluding remarks. I am going to, Dr. Karad could not come, but his colleagues are there, Dr. Pandey, Dr. Chitnis, and Dr. Patra. I would request them to please come here and accept memento on behalf of Rahul Karad and Vishwanath Karad. I want to mention that MIT group, after reading the draft of the book, they thought that this book must reach to Indian scientists. And recently, they had conducted a huge conference inviting top-level Indian scientists in Pune, and MIT group has procured 1,000 copies of this book, which will reach to all over in the top scientific community. So thank you. Please come, three of you, please come and receive memento for Karad sir. कराड सर आणि राहुल कराड सरांचे आहेत ना, ते त्यांना देऊ आपण. Professor Chitnis, Professor Pandey, one of the very accomplished. These are pro-vice chancellors of MIT group. Dr. Patra. This is Rahul Karadji. So he is vice chancellor of that university. And Dr. Milind Pandey, pro-vice chancellor. Oh,
I'm sorry, we'll take 1 minute on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad sir and Rahul Karad sir. Would like to honor both the authors. Please, in your presence, this felicitation from every one of us. So please accept, sir.
This is actually, Madam.
I mean, I cannot tell you that.
Thank you. I think Sanjita has last memento to be given to Rahul. Yes, sir. Who is will request Dr. Kerkar to give? Yes. Memento to Rahul. Sir, एक मिनट थांब. Rahul गेला बाय? Okay. तू गेला का? Yes. Yeah, so we'll invite Sunanda ji to come here.
Yes. Can we please have Sunanda ma'am on the stage? She's a member of the Ramkumar Rathi Patanjali Yoga Chair.
Sunanda ji is one of the very active yoga teacher, and not only yoga, various activities she is doing.
Yes. Please give them a huge round of applause. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Towards the end of the panel discussion, I have one short message from the director of ISER Pune, Professor Sunil Bhagwat, and he mentions that there's a small message that he sent, and I'm just going to take a...
He could not come.
Yeah, he could not be here, so I'm going to read a small message on his behalf for all of y'all. And he says that the use of medical science in ancient India was considered to be far ahead of the world at one time. However, due to various historical reasons today, Ayurveda needs a fresh look and a scientific approach of new nature. It is also in line with the development of human mind leading to mental peace in sustainable, environmentally safe manner. Deliberations along these lines by Dr. Patwardhan and Ms. Ramchandani will be extremely interesting. I eagerly look forward to reading this book. So this is what he says. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, all the panelists. I request all of you all to please take your seats in the audience. And this pretty much brings us to the end of the program here today. Before we conclude, I'd like the panelists to please take a seat in the audience. Before we conclude the program, I'd like to call upon stage senior faculty from the Department of Health Sciences, Professor Aarti Nagarkar, to give a vote of thanks for the occasion today. The vote of thanks will be followed by a small pasaidan by Nandini. Nandini is a MA Sanskrit student and who is also an intern at our science research group. It's quite an interdisciplinary approach that we try to follow and bring in new perspectives here. And followed by that, we have snacks for all of you all outside. So we look forward to seeing you there as well. Over to you, Aarti ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is said that no duty is most urgent than the duty of returning thanks. And I'm delighted to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Ramkumar Rathi Patanjali Yoga Chair and the Ayush Center of Excellence of Savitribai Phule Pune University. First and foremost, I thank all the panelists for bringing out the profound thought that is there in the book. I understand the glimpses from your thoughts that there are a number of transitions that we are going to look into, and the transitions are basically from modern science to meta-science. And it is our wisdom to take those transitions very mindfully or meaningfully. We also understand that the meaningful progression has to be grounded in human values, and that's what we have learned from all the madams and the sirs who have spoken over here. Thank you so much for enlightening us about this book. We also thank the gracious presence of several dignitaries. As we know that the Karad sir could not come, but the representatives from MIT WPU. We also thank Patil sir for your gracious presence. We also thank our own Vice Chancellor who was there in the morning to grace this occasion. We thank Chitaye sir, Alex Sankey sir, we thank Bonde sir, and there are several other dignitaries in the audience who have come to grace this occasion. And last but not least, we also thank the audiences who have helped us up front and also backstage to make this event a success. Thank you so much. May I request Nand to come?
आता विश्वात्मके देवे येणे वाग्यज्ञे तोषावे तोषो शोनी मज द्यावे पसाय दान हे. जे खळांची व्यंकटी सांडो तया सत्कर्मी रती वाढो. भूता परस्परे पडो मैत्र जीवांचे. दुरितांचे तिमिर जावो विश्वस्वधर्म सूर्ये पाहो. जो जे वांछील तो ते लाहो प्राणी जात. वर्षत सकळ मंगळी ईश्वर निष्ठांची मांदियाळी. अनवरत भूमंडळी भेट तू भूता. चला कल्पतरूंचे आरव चेतना चिंतामणींचे गाव. बोलते जे अर्णव पियुषाचे. चंद्रमेजे अलांछन मार्तंड जे तापहीन. ते सर्वाही सदा सज्जन सोय रे हो तू. किंबहुना सर्वसुखी पूर्ण होनी तिहि लोकी. भजी जो आदिपुरुखी अखंडित आणि ग्रंथोपजीविये विशेषी लोकीये. दृष्टा विजये हो आवेजी. येथ म्हणे श्री विश्वेश्वराव हा होईल दान पसावो. येणे वरे ज्ञान देवो सुखिया झाला. सुखिया झाला. सुखिया झाला. ओम शांती शांती शांती.